Hey guys, we're going to be working on lesson 8.6, day number 1, where you have to choose a factoring method. And basically up top here is kind of walking you through the flow chart that we already made together. So if you have your factoring flow chart that we already made in class together, have that out, and then we'll just kind of skip over the step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, and jump right into the practice problems down here. So I will zoom in on the first practice problem and use my flow chart to kind of get through here with you guys. So if you take a look at the first problem, it says factor each polynomial completely if it's not already. And you can see on the first one that it looks like they already have a GCF pulled out. And then we have some leftovers in parentheses here. So if I look at this, I don't have a GCF of x squared and plus 4 because nothing goes into just x squared and 4. So if you don't have a GCF, then you kind of go down your flow chart and say, okay, are there 4 terms? No, there's not. Are there 3 terms? No, I only have 2 in the parentheses. Then I would have down here, okay, are there 2 terms? And I do have 2 terms here. At first glance, it seems like, oh yeah, that could be a difference of squares. But remember that difference in math means subtraction. And if you look right here, guys, this does not have a subtraction sign in there. So this one actually can't be factored any farther. So if you just write here that it can't be factored. Okay, kind of weird, but that's an answer sometimes. If you take a look at number 2 and you look at each set of parentheses separately, you have 2x plus 6, and the first question on your flow chart is always, is there a GCF? Well, 2 and 6 definitely do have a GCF. So I can take the biggest factor that goes into 2 and 6 would be 2. So I would take 2 out, and if I did that, 2x, but I take out a 2, that would leave me with x, plus 6, take out 2, that means 6 divided by 2, that would be 3. X plus 5, there's nothing that goes into x and 5, so I can't factor that any further, so I would just leave it there. And that's as far as you would be able to go with number 2 right there. Just taking the 2 out of that first set of parentheses. They'll get progressively harder as we go. The next one, number 3. So if you take a look, we've got negative 2, 16, and negative 32. Remember, you have to think first, is there a GCF? And for this one, definitely going into 2 and 16 and 32, you could take out a 2. And so I'm going to take 2 out. As far as x's go, every single one of these has an x, so I'm going to take an x out as well. I've got y squared, y, and I don't have any y's on this one, so I can't take y's out. So then what that would leave me with in parentheses is negative 2 divided by 2, that would be negative 1. X, I took out the x though, so I'm left with y squared. 16, take out 2, that means divided by 2, so that would leave me with 8. I took out an x, so that would just leave me with y. And then negative 32 divided by 2, that'd be negative 16. X, I took out x, so just be left with that. And this almost looks like it would be, if you look here, if I then hop over and say, okay, I took out a GCF, and if I go along this way, because we're working on factoring completely, are there 4 terms? Inside these parentheses, I do not have 4 terms. Are there 3 terms? Yes. It's super, super close, guys, to looking like one of those easy ones on the flow chart. But I have this negative sign. The nice part is, guys, when you have a negative, you can take that out. So I'm going to take the negative out. But if I do that, I have to take it out of all of these. Really, I'm taking out a negative 1. So it's going to sit out front of that negative 2. Or, I'm sorry, the 2x. That negative is going to sit right out front. I'm taking a negative 1 out of each of these. So that leaves me with y squared. 8 divided by that negative that I took out, that'd be negative 8 now. Negative 16, I'm just taking the negative out, so that'd be positive 16 left. So if you ever have a negative and it was almost going to be an easy trinomial, just plop that out front. Okay. Now right here, we can keep going because this is now one of those easy trinomials. So with the easy trinomials, you just have to think about what times what gives me this. Those exact same numbers, though, have to add to be this middle number, negative 8. And so if I think about this for a minute, I know that 4 times 4 is 16, but I need them to add together to be negative 8, so I'm going to use negative 4 and negative 4. So this negative 2x that was out front, you just have to keep that out front. I'm I'm going to set up my parentheses for my easy trinomial. I'm using the letter y in this problem, so I'm going to start with y and y. 4 and 4 do multiply together to be 16, but I want them to add together to be negative 8, so I'm going to make it negative 4 and negative 4. Negative 4 times negative 4 is still positive 16, and negative 4 added to negative 4 is still negative 8, so that one works. And now I've factored completely. So I took the GCF out first, but then it was still one of those trinomials, so I could keep going. Okay, take a look at number 4 now. Number 4, the number, let's see, I look for GCF first. 2, 5, 4, nothing goes in. X squared, X, I can't take any X's out either. So then there's not a GCF. Are there 4 terms? Nope. Are there 3 terms? Yes. And it looks like it's going to be one of the hard ones because it starts with a 2 out front. So it's going to be a pain in the butt. So let's see here. We've got our multiply number. For the first thing is going to be 2. That means I can definitely start my parentheses with, the only thing that times together be 2 is 2 and 1, so 2x and 1x. I also need my last numbers that I put in the parentheses to times together to be 4. So let's see, I've got 1 and 4 multiplied together to be 4, and 2 and 2. So let's start trying numbers here. I don't know what it is off the top of my head, so let's just try 1 and 4 right now. And I can see everything's positive, so I'm going to write plus 1 and plus 4 real quick. My outsides and my insides have to add up to be this middle number. So let's check the outsides and the insides. 2x times 4, that would be 8x. 1 times x, shoot, that's 1x. 8x and 1x is definitely not going to add up to 5x. It adds up to 9. So that's not going to work. So instead of having 1 and 4 here, let's turn this into a 4 and this into 1. And now let's check and see if that works. 2x times 1, that would be 2x. And then if I do my insides, 4 times x, that would be 4x. 2x added to 4x, that's 6x. Still not going to work. So maybe it's not 1 and 4. Okay, I tried both ways for that. Let's try 2 and 2 now. I'm just going to switch colors. And I'm going to turn this into 2, and this one into 2. And if you're using pencil, just erase. All right, let's check outsides. 2x times 2, that would be 2x. If I do my insides, that's 2 times x as well. 2x added to 2x, that's 4x, so that didn't work either. And if I switch 2 and 2, guys, it's not going to do anything for me. We have tried every single combination, and they didn't work. So that means that this one just can't be factored. Just make sure you have tried every combination before you say that. All right, so can't be factored for number 4. All right, hop down to number 5 for me. And with number 5, we've got 3n to the 4th minus 15n cubed plus 12n squared. And let's see, is there greatest common factor? That's always the top of our flowchart. 3 goes into all of those, so we can take 3 out for sure. Let's look at the letters. We've got n to the 4th, n cubed, and n squared. So I can take n squared out of everything. They all have that in common. If I do that, let's do our leftovers now. 3 divided by 3 is just 1. N to the 4th, but I'm taking out n squared. That'll leave me with n squared. For the next term, negative 15 divided by this 3, that would be negative 5. N cubed, but I'm taking out n squared. That'll leave me with n. 12 divided by this 3, that would leave me with 4. N squared, but I took out n squared, so I don't have any letters left next to the 4. After you check for factoring or getting the GCF out, then you've got to follow this arrow down right here, where it says factor completely. Are there 4 terms? In my parentheses, I do not have 4 terms. Okay, so then are there 3 terms? And we do have 3 terms. And this one doesn't have a number out front of n squared, which means it's one of the easy ones. Remember, with the easy trinomials, here's your times number, here's your add number, and now I'm just going to keep that 3n squared out, set up my parentheses for a trinomial, and think about, okay, what times what is 4 that also adds together to be negative 5? I know 1 and 4 multiply together, and 2 and 2. 1 and 4 add to be positive 5, so if I want to make it negative 5, I can make both of these negative, negative 1 and negative 4. So that means I'm going to put n and n here instead of x's like we do sometimes. negative 1 and negative 4 would go in here because negative 1 times negative 4 is positive 4. And negative 1 added to negative 4 is still negative 5, so that one worked. And I can't go any farther than that, so that would be my answer. That one I had to factor a GCF out first, and then I still had an easy trinomial to work with. All right, last example for today, problem 6. So if you take a look at the numbers 4, 18, and 20, looking for a greatest common factor always first. 4 does not go into 18. 2 goes into all of them. So we could take 2 out of those. And x cubed, x squared, and x, they have at least an x in common. So I'm going to factor out the GCF 2x. I write my leftovers in parentheses. 4 divided by 2 is 2. X cubed, take out an x, that's going to leave me with x squared. For the next term, 18 divided by 2 is 9, so positive 9. X squared, take out an x, leaves me with x. And then 20 divided by that 2 is going to be 10. So plus 10, x, take out x, no letters next to that one. So after we factor out a GCF, if you look at your flow chart, then you go that factor completely route. Are there 4 terms? No, there's not 4 terms left. Are there 3 terms? I do have 3 terms here. So with these 3 terms, this is going to be one of the hard ones. So this is where we have to start thinking about our first multiply number and our last multiply number. So I'm going to keep this GCF of 2x just out front. I'm going to get my parentheses set up for this hard trinomial. The nice part is with 2, the only thing that multiplies together to be 2 is 2 and 1. So I'm going to write 2x and 1x here. And then for the 10, let's see, I know that, I've got 10 and 1 multiplied together to be 10. And 2 and 5, but that's it. I need to get to 9 when I add my outsides and my insides. So if I think about adding my outside to my inside, that means whatever I put right here is going to get times by this 2. And whatever I put here just gets times by 1. So if I think about, if I put 10 here, I'm going to do 2 times 10 and I'm going to get 20. That's too far off. So I don't think I'm going to try 10 and 1 first. If I try 2 and 5, if you can imagine the 2 being here, 2 times 2 is 4. And then 5 times 1, that would be 5. So 4 and 5 add up to be 9. So I'm going to put the 2 here and the 5 here. If I do my outsides and my insides, 2x times 2 is 4x. Inside 5 times x is 5x. And if you add 4x to 5x, it does check to be that middle number 9x. So this whole thing then would be my answer. I factored that completely. And that's it for 8-6 day number 1 notes, guys.